So, lads, there is a WNBA team that have been very, very, very much in, they made it clear that they want Caitlin Clark, or they're eventually going to want Caitlin Clark. Along those lines, they made it very, very clear.
Well, Stephanie White thought she had everything figured out with her superstar, Caitlin Clark. But karma has a funny way of making coaches eat their words. Clark is dealing with yet another groin injury, and suddenly, those cozy meetings with the New York Liberty don't seem so innocent anymore. Writing on the wall. Folks.
Clark in the bowels of the Barclays Center with Liberty coach Sandy Brondello and Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. I'm just having a little fun.
Do you think Caitlin Clark is already mentally checking out of Indiana after witnessing how Stephanie White has handled her injury situation? Let's be brutally honest. White's management of Clark has been about as smooth as sandpaper. Still, Clark has missed multiple games this season due to recurring groin injuries, and White's response has been far from reassuring. When your franchise player is struggling with ongoing physical setbacks and your reaction is asked, casuals. If it's just another day at the office, it signals a serious problem.
There's a level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. I knew it as an opponent, and I see it as her coach. I'm not exactly sure why, but it just is what it is. And we've got to help her learn to adjust and use it against them in certain ways.
The pattern has been crystal clear from day one. There are clear signs that Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark aren't fully aligned when it comes to Clark's role in the offense. White continues to play Clark off the ball, despite Clark opening, stating that she's at her best when she has the ball in her hands, especially in transition. But does White listen? Of course not. She's too focused on forcing her system to recognize that she is a generational talent. Drives with ball. Clark has already missed 10 games this season due to injuries, including a previous left quad injury. 10 games, that's not just bad luck, that's a pattern. And what's White's response when asked about Clark's injury concerns? He went through semi-live shooting drills. She still hasn't gone full speed in her practice or live defensive group. Really reassuring. Coach.
Did she have imaging today? Was it just see how she was feeling? I know you have a game tonight first, but is there any discussion yet about this weekend with her? Because obviously she's a huge part of All-Star.
No discussion yet about this weekend. There was imaging done, obviously ruling her out for tonight, but there hasn't been any discussion beyond tonight.
The most telling moment came when Caitlin Clark was ruled out for Wednesday night's game against the New York Liberty in Brooklyn after suffering a right groin injury. In the final minute of Tuesday's 85-77 win over the Connecticut Sun, she was visibly in tears on the bench. Yet Stephanie White's response was essentially a shrug. After the game, White told reporters that Clark felt a little something in her groin. A little something. Your star player is crying on the bench, and that's how you describe it. The disconnect is absolutely staggering, and here's where. It gets even more interesting. The New York Liberty has been circling Clark like sharks. Honestly, who can blame them? Liberty CEO Kia Clark openly acknowledged that Clark has had an undeniable impact on business. Growth brought new energy to the league. They clearly see the value that White seems to overlook. Let's not forget when Clark dropped the season-high 30 points and tied her career high with 7 3-pointers in her return from injury, leading the Indiana Fever to a 100-88 win over the Liberty. That performance was a clear reminder of what Clark can do when she's healthy and mentally locked. But what followed? More injuries, more misgames, and more questionable decisions from Stephanie White.
We have just seen the New York Liberty players after the game meeting up with Caitlin Clark. It is Stewie, it is Sabrina Ionescu, there is Sandy Brondello. And by the way, Stewie is not leaving New York the rest of her career. That is one thing that I will be 99% sure of. The Stewie is not leaving New York. Sabrina is not going to leave New York. I think there is a 50-50 chance Caitlin Clark leaves Indiana after her rookie season.
The Liberty connection isn't just speculation, it's backed by Clark's own actions. In the All-Star draft, Caitlin Clark selected New York Liberty guard Sabrina Ionescu as the number 3 overall pick. That wasn't just a basketball move. It was a show of respect for a player who has faced similar pressure and expectations. The mutual admiration between Clark and the Liberty players is evident, and it's something she doesn't seem to feel with her current coaching staff. Stephanie White's approach to Clark's playing time has been questionable at best. White has stated that she likes having primary ball handlers on the floor and doesn't want Clark to play under duress for all night it could be. But this is your franchise player, the same person who has single-handedly elevated the WNBA's profile. And you're worried about her playing too much. The philosophical clash between coach and player is growing more obvious by the day. Clark herself has been clear about what she needs to succeed. I think we need to do a better job of getting the ball in transition. Whether somebody is there or not, there's a fine balance of playing me off the ball and also getting the ball in my hands. That's when I'm at my best in transition. That's not a polite suggestion. It's a direct message to her coach. Yet White continues to try to force her into an off-ball role. Meanwhile, the injury situation is becoming a serious concern. Clark has never had a lower field goal or three-point percentage across any 5-game stretch. Her young WNBA career. When your star player is struggling, you adjust your system to support them, not shrug it off by saying you're not concerned about them. Shooting. Then there's the elephant in the room. Clark's contract situation. She's only in her second year, giving her time to think about her long-term future. The Liberty aren't just a well-run organization. They're a championship caliber team that knows how to develop and maximize talent. They recently sold a minority stake in a report for $150 million valuation, the highest ever for a women's sports franchise. That's an organization that invests in winning. Compare that to the Indiana Fever. The team went 5-5 this season without Clark, most recently losing 89-87 to the Los Angeles Sparks. They're completely dependent on her. Yet they can't seem to keep her healthy or use her effectively when she is on the court. That's not a sustainable formula for success. The writing is on the wall when you compare how other teams value Clark versus how her own team treats her. Her return game against the Liberty drew to 2 million views, tied for the second most watched WNBA game of the season. She's appointment television. Yet her own coach treats her like just another player expected to fit into the system, even after big wins. White's post-game comments often seem designed to downplay Clark's impact. After a dominant victory over the Aces, White chose to focus on the team's defense instead of acknowledging Clark's leadership, even as she supported her team from the bench while injured, is becoming increasingly clear. Clark deserves better, and other teams know it.
You can see, and this is one of the more important things. You see this right here? You see this right here? This is Caitlin's agent. This is Caitlin Clark's agent.
The Liberty connection becomes even more intriguing when you consider the coaching staff. As part of the All-Star game, Caitlin Clark's team is set to be led by New York Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello. That's not just a coincidence. Clark getting a taste of what elite-level coaching looks like. What's more concerning is Stephanie White's recent comments about Clark's return timeline. White noted that Clark still hasn't gone full speed in her practice or live defensive setting, despite progressing through various rehab stages. This comes after Clark has already suffered multiple injuries this season. Competent coaching staff would have figured out how to manage their star players' workload by now. Perhaps the most damning sign of disconnect between White and Clark lies in White's offensive philosophy. White said her biggest concern is reintegrating Clark, a way that maintains the team's ball movement side to side, baseline to baseline. But that shouldn't be her top priority. Her primary focus should be getting her best player healthy and allowing her to dominate. Meanwhile, the Liberty understand how to handle star power. With Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, they built a system designed to maximize talent, not squeeze players into a predetermined mold. That's what championship culture looks like. Clark's frustration has been visible all season. After her latest groin injury, she was seen physical, emotional, placing a towel over her head on the Fever bench. That reaction wasn't just about physical pain, it was the emotional toll of feeling like her career is being mismanaged. The difference in her performance when healthy versus when dealing with injury and questionable. Coaching is start when fully healthy. Clark posted 14 points and 13 assists as the Fever scored a franchise record 64 points in the first half. When hindered by injuries and misuse, she struggles to find her rhythm. White's handling of Clark's all-star status only adds to the issue. When asked about Clark's participation, White said, Caitlin and her team will make decisions. When it comes to All-Star, for me, it's a big deal for us to have All-Star in Indianapolis. Once again, White deflected responsibility instead of taking a stand for her players' health and well-being. The contrast between the Liberty and Fever organizations is stark. The Liberty have a strong track record of veteran leadership, player development, and championship aspirations. They recently sold a minority stake in a $450 million valuation, highest ever for a women's sports team, proving their commitment to success. Meanwhile, Fever are still struggling to figure out how to utilize the most talented player in the league. They went 5-5 without Clark this season, most recently losing 89-87 to the Los Angeles Sparks. They rely heavily on her, yet fail to keep her healthy or use her effectively when she is available. That's not a model for long-term success. White's inability to read the room has become a recurring problem when your franchise player is dealing with injuries. You don't speak about ball movement and system integration, you focus on getting her healthy and adjusting your system to fit her strength. Instead, White continues to force Clark into a role that doesn't play to her natural abilities. The injuries aren't just physical or mental, too. Clark entered the league with unmatched confidence and competitive fire, but constant physical setbacks, paired with the coaching staff that doesn't seem to grasp her value, can quickly wear that down. Then there's the elephant in the room of reported conversations between Clark, her agent, and Liberty players. These aren't casual chats, they're strategic business moves. Clark's agent wouldn't be wasting time if everything in Indiana was on solid ground. The timing of these talks is telling, happening as Clark deals with injury issues and clear philosophical clashes with her coach. It signals dissatisfaction with Clark's camp and a possible interest in exploring future options. White's public comments about Clark's injuries have been consistently toned down. Referring to a groin injury that left Clark in tears is a little something. Is exactly the kind of dismissive attitude that makes players and their agents question if the coach truly understands or cares. That's the kind of statement that sparks phone calls to veteran organizations. The Liberty understand how to build around stars. They don't try to fit Sabrina Stewart or Sabrina Ionescu into their systems. They build around their skill sets. The Fever, under White, are doing the opposite. Instead of shaping a team around Clark's generational talent, they're trying to mold her into their pre-existing framework. That's backward thinking and a fundamental failure in leadership. Clark's agent engaging with Liberty players isn't just casual networking, it's strategic position. When you're dealing with a coach who undervalues your client, you can't keep her healthy. You look elsewhere. That appears to be exactly what's happening. And the most frustrating part, the situation was entirely preventable. White had the opportunity to build something special with Clark from day one. Instead, she's created an environment where her star is injured, frustrated, and potentially planning her exit. Successful coach-superstar relationships are built on mutual respect and adaptability. The coach adjusts to maximize the player's strengths, and the player buys into the team vision. In Indiana, we're seeing the opposite. White expects Clark to adapt without making any meaningful changes. Herself, the writing on the wall, Clark's growing frustration. White's tone-deaf responses and her rigid coaching have created a perfect storm. The Liberty are well positioned to take advantage, and they have the culture and leadership to do so. Fever need to wake up before it's too late. Clark's patience won't last forever, and the Liberty are offering everything Indiana isn't: competent coaching, a winning culture, and star-level respect. Stephanie White's karma might be coming, and it's wearing a New York Liberty jersey.